Guys, Tiger here. Just on this long, boring ride to see my family for a few days. Thought I'd bring you along with me. We're on Interstate 40. I figured I'd just let y'all see what things look like my drive goes, and thought we'd just chat. Let's just talk. So, tell you a little bit about myself and my background, my history, if you will. I was born in February of 1965. At 2 something in the morning. Yep. That was a joy. Like a lot of babies, I was jaundiced. My eardrums had burst and grew back. I've learned that that's more common than what you think. Say, okay, so I'm not too abnormal, out of whack. My mom had told me that they brought me home. It was snowing, so definitely a winter baby. I do have one sibling, my sister, who was born in May at 3 something in the afternoon. So we're on opposite ends of the spectrum there. I'm a winter overnight baby, and she's a spring mid-afternoon baby. And sadly, we're the last of our branch of the family tree. I never wanted kids. Her and her husband wanted children, but because of medical issues were unable to have children. And so when our time comes, that'll be it. And that's okay. I was born in Hickory, North Carolina, and spent a big chunk of my childhood living in Hickory. Started out in a little 4-room house, and that was my parents' starter home. Then we moved into a I think you call them duplex. We bought one half and rented the other half, or something to that effect, so we'd have the whole property. And that was in a neighborhood. It was a postage stamp size yard, and that's where my sister and I lived for a few years. I learned not to mess with bees, and that running away meant not going any farther than your next door neighbor's house, and that being challenged to be the dirtiest kid in the morning before the school bus picks you up was not the best thing to do. Needless to say, I got a spanking, because back then you still got spanked. And, well, we didn't do that again. So, we moved from there out into the country in Burke County. Catawba County and Burke County sister up to each other. My dad, at some point in his life, had bought a 30-acre piece of property in Burke County, and part of it we used to farm to grow food for the family. And when we moved to Burke County, we didn't move onto the property, it wasn't developed. But we moved close to the property. Got a nice little brick house, 3-bedroom. 1.5 bath on another little small, I think it was half-acre piece of property. And of course, in the time that I was born and we moved and then we moved again, I also had to change schools. So I went to first grade at one school, second and third grade at another school, and then fourth grade through high school at the last two houses that we lived in before I moved out on my own. My sister was fortunate enough to only have to go to one elementary/junior high school and high school. So she grew up with lifelong friends. I had to make new friends with each move. But from fourth grade on was, able to have the same friends. And of course our high school was a combination of junior high school, so there you met new people and made new friends. As far as religion goes, I was born into the Lutheran Church. My mom and her side of the family were Lutheran. My dad didn't go to church at that time. And when I was old enough, I was christened at the Lutheran Church. But once we moved out into the country, out in Burke County, we did join a local church in that area that was adjacent to the property that we owned. That 30-something acre piece of property. Little backwoods country Baptist church is the religion I grew up in. And it was about as backwoods and country as you could get. But that was my life. And once I was old enough and had my own vehicle and kind of go out and do my adulting. I went to a Methodist church for a while. My college years, I went to Appalachian State for a year. Tried studying what my parents thought I should study, which was computers, and folks, that was not for me, not what I wanted. So I wound up flunking out, and came back home. Decided that I was just going to work for a while until I really knew what I wanted to study and if I wanted to go to college to study anything. So worked in the furniture industry. Hickory is big, or was big, in the furniture industry here in the U.S. And I worked for 3 different furniture companies over the course of time. In between those, I tried some other jobs, but just wasn't happy. And finally decided that I wanted my life to be a life of service, helping people, and the way I wanted to do that was to be a medic, paramedic. So I was also interested in the criminal justice system and the fire department. So I went to the community college and took EMT classes. I took some criminal justice classes, and just some basic classes, stuff that I could transfer to a university if I decided to go back to a 4-year college. And joined as a volunteer our local rescue squad for Burke County. Got some good experience, a lot of good training, met a lot of good people. And got to know the crazy side, the dramatic side of being a EMT, member of the rescue squad. And I decided, well, that's what I want to do. So I went to Western Carolina University because they have a wonderful 4-year program in emergency medicine, where I got eventually over time got my degree to be a paramedic. And while I was there, because of some different medical issues and whatnot, I did attend their community college in Jackson County. And got an associate's degree in the criminal justice field. That was some great training, met a lot of good people. It was an adventure. I loved living in the area, in the mountains. And we're going to rewind a little bit. Before I started school at Western, I did decide to join the Naval Reserves as a hospital corpsman to kind of get a leg up. And, you know, you go to college. If you go into the military, you can get help going to college, blah, blah, blah. So I went through boot camp in Orlando. I did my specialty training in Waukegan, which is between Chicago and Milwaukee. I did get to visit both those towns. Chicago's an interesting place, not some place I'd want to live. The training base up there, they have boot camp facilities, and they have a very wonderful, they call it A School Training Center, where they teach a lot of the different specialties that you can get into in the Navy. And it's right on the lake. So it's a really beautiful and fascinating place to be. A very diverse cultural place to be. And the only three times I've ever flown in my life, flew from Charlotte to Orlando. When I was done with my basic training, I flew from Orlando to Chicago. When I was done with my A School specialty training to be a corpsman, I flew from Chicago back to Charlotte. And if you know me, you know I don't like flying. Biggest thing I learned is I can't eat on a plane, but that's not been a problem because I haven't been back on one since that last flight that took me from Chicago to Charlotte. They wanted me to take a hopper flight from Charlotte to Hickory, and I'm like, no. So I called my parents and they had to come get me in Charlotte. Some of the interesting things that I got to do while I was in Waukegan in the Charlotte area is I had several firsts. I had my first ride in a taxi, because when you're on base, if you want to get anywhere, you either jump on the local bus, which I did a few times to go to the mall or whatever in the area, or you take a taxi, or you can ride the train that comes through. And we did that. So my very first train ride, I got to ride the passenger train into Chicago and do a little tour of parts of Chicago. It was very interesting. I got to go up into what was known then as the Sears Tower, one of the fastest elevators that you can get on, and that was an experience. I got to go to the Rock and Roll McDonald's and to some other restaurants up there. Hard Rock Cafe is it's always the touristy thing to do. The Chicago train station, those kind of things. So it was an experience. Definitely an experience. My time in Western was an experience. And at some point I'll make a video just about that. But after a period of time and thinking that I was just going to be a full-time college student, I did finally graduate. Like I said, I had an associate's degree in criminal justice, and I have a bachelor's degree in emergency medicine. From there, I wound up in the Greensboro area, Rockingham County specifically. Got a job, part-time job as a paramedic. Fortunately, because I couldn't make a living at it, I had to find other employment. So I spent a couple of years working full-time for a veterinary clinic. From there, I went and worked full-time at one of the Lowe's hardware stores. That was a 5-year stint. And then from there, I spent a 15-year stint working for Habitat for Humanity at the Habitat Restore in Greensboro, which was a great experience. Got to meet a lot of really cool people, and it wasn't being a medic, but it was still being able to serve my community by helping to raise money to build the Habitat houses. And at the end of 2019, I went on disability, permanent disability, because of my back and my knees and shoulders, hands. And here we are today, 2026, and I've enjoyed every minute to date of my disability retirement. Honestly, overall in life, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I made a best friend and her husband, and get to work with potbelly pigs and goats and a donkey, which I love. I don't do it, haven't done it as much the past couple of years because of working through some surgeries, back surgery, 2 knee replacements, hand surgeries. Had my right shoulder replaced twice, and earlier this year I had my left kidney taken out. And so now that I'm feeling better, I've been able to work on getting some things done around my house. a little at a time with help, and getting those projects knocked out. My goal is to be able to go back to helping out at the our rescue, last resort farm animal rescue. Spend more times with the pigs and the goats and the donkey. They're my best bud. So that's kind of how things have gone. What's gotten me to where I'm at today. And I enjoy my home, my neighbors, my church family, my best friend and her husband, and getting to go home, well, to see my family, which is where I'm on my way to right now. Basically whenever I want to, for as long or as short a time as I want to, without having to work around a work schedule. And folks, that's kind of the long and short of it. Out of that timeline were many crazy stories and interesting stories that I hope to share in more detail down the road. But for now, I think this video's long enough, and so we're gonna cut it, and I will hope that you remember that God loves you, that I love you, and we'll see you on the next video. Tiger out.